This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
This week we're joined by special guest star, Big Rob.
Coming to you live from the only brothel on Dagobah, the Nerdy Manroom Show, with your host, Hassel and Monster. This week we have an extra special guest host that's here. We're really excited about him. He is the pit master extraordinaire, the master disaster, the man that is the expert of all things Star Wars. Our topic this week, Big Rob. How are you, Rob?
Doing great, guys. I really appreciate the wonderful and completely fictitious introduction there, but I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Oh, you're not at the brothel on Dagobah?
Oh, I'm always at the brothel on Dagobah.
If they got Oola, he's got Moolah.
Hey.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
Monster, we got a little news this week.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a slower news week considering it is the week of Christmas, but apparently everybody wants to continue just pumping it out left and right before the end of the year. So, yeah, we do have a good bit of news, and you know, you welcomed Big Rob into the fold here, and I want to say thank you to him for joining us for the entire show, because a lot of times we get folks who want to join us and can't be here but for certain parts, but he's going to partake with us the entire time. So, lucky him, he gets to spend the whole evening with us here. So, but we'll jump into the news. Let's splash off the top rope with this first one coming out of WWE. We see that Kevin Owens has re-signed with WWE for a very high dollar. There's no figure put out there that I've seen, but it's pretty high dollar.
Actually, it was put out there today. I see it's a 3-year, downside guarantee of $2 to $3 million per year. This is 2 to 3 times what he could not afford to pay Bret the Hitman Hart in '97. So, I mean, for Kevin Owens, this is a great win. I hate it myself. I was really hoping he was going to AEW where he'd be used properly, but, you know.
So and we've got a lot of news, so not to dwell on it too long. And I had not seen the 3-year. I saw a 5-year deal at first, but the 3 years is even crazier that it's that amount of money. But do you really think you guys watch AEW? I don't, only because I don't get it on my streaming services. But do you really think that he would have been used properly at AEW, considering they keep grabbing up every mainstream main event star they can? Do you really think he'd have been in the main event picture there?
I think he could have busted through. He could have been there Stone Cold to bust in there, which, you know, he was part of what the supergroup called Mount Rushmore anyways, with the Guns and Cole. So, I mean, you knew he was going to be used prominently if he come in. And, I mean, when you got Stone Cold's blessing to use his finisher, why not let him come in there and be the ultimate badass and just fuck everyone up? No sides, you know, a true tweener like Stone Cold was. I mean, that would have been the thing to do. And I think that was no-brain booking even for Tony Khan.
Yeah, I just wondered if they would actually if he would fully flourish in that kind of position, because of the amount of people that they have in that same little clique of people, and they keep pushing them to the top, and everybody else, you're either a low card or you're a top card. There's no mid card in AEW from what I see most of the time.
No, there really isn't. I will say that. But I mean, it's got to be getting squashed by Big E every week. I mean,
that's fair. I mean, that's kind of mid card anyway. So, but to move, moving us on from that, we've got a lot of movie and TV news. So let's start with the first bit of movie news that I know both of you guys have seen this. So what I will do is let's throw out some of how did the Spider-Man No Way Home perform, and then I'll shoot it over to both of you guys to give your grade on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, and your overall thoughts. But from what we've seen so far, it's the third highest movie globally, debuting at $600.8 million. Just behind the two Avengers movies, Endgame and Infinity War. And then for domestically, it actually took the second place spot at 260 million, knocking out Infinity War at 257 in the U.S. Biggest December movie opening ever, biggest Sony movie opening ever. And honestly, since the pandemic started, it is the only movie that has performed to this blockbuster level. I mean, we've had a few decent performances. Venom hitting 90 to 100 million, which was way above its budget. Ghostbusters Afterlife made a good chunk of change, but this is the first movie to really move the needle as far as getting people back in the theater, and I think it might be that shot in the arm that the theaters need at this point in time.
This is truly the first big blockbuster that's actually performed. I mean, I think people thought that Shang-Chi and Eternals, they would kind of maybe move the needle, but they didn't. I mean, and I would say Shang-Chi, great movie, but it didn't move the needle. I mean, it just didn't.
Right.
This is the first thing that has come out that it tipped the scales. So, I mean, it proved me wrong. They're still live at the box office. I kind of thought that, the days of really going back to that would possibly not exist like it was. But, hey, it proved me wrong.
Yeah, I think it'll still be a little more selective to go in, but yeah, it's come back. But with that, let's shoot it to Big Rob first, since he's joining us this week as our guest star. How would you have graded the movie, and what were your overall thoughts? We'll try not to do any spoilers, because I know a lot of people still have not seen it. I've talked to several people this week on some work phone calls, like, I'm going when I get off work for vacation for the Christmas holidays, so they haven't done it yet, so I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet.
Oh yeah, definitely. For me, definitely want to give this thing, 9.5, 10 stars out of 10, whatever. I think it was pretty close to perfect. I had a great time. I laughed. I got a little emotional a couple times, and I had a great time. And what else can you ask for from a movie, especially, a superhero blockbuster? I went Monday afternoon, just because, but I kind of looked at the at ticket sales during the week, or excuse me, over the weekend, and for reserved seating at some of these nicer IMAX theaters, the theaters were filling up, just like almost like they did in the old days. So I'm kind of like you guys. Maybe this is the shot that that movies need for us to get back out and start going again. I think it's wonderful. But yeah, I thought the movie was amazing. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Hassel, what's your opinion of it?
It was a 10. It was a solid 10 to me. For years, you guys know I've said Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 was like the first movie to capture a real comic book vibe to me. Like the Doc Ock, battle, where the two of them are going back and forth various times throughout the movie. It's the first time I really felt like I was watching a comic book. This right here encapsulated everything. And Avengers, had like some holy shit moments, and some of those give you real chill bumps. And a lot of the comic book movies do. No, I'm not saying that, but this was the absolute perfect comic book movie. There was not one thing, excuse me, with the exception of Green Goblin having a prosthetic, actually goblin mask. That would have been the only thing that could have made this movie better. And without, giving any spoilers, which for anybody that watches come next week, you're just out of luck, because I'll probably spoil the shit out of some things. But, I will give you till after Christmas. I'll be benevolent enough to do that. But the movie was perfect to me. I loved it. There's some surprises in it. There's, things that pop up here or there that's just great. They hit you in the feels. Without a doubt, they hit you in the feels a couple times. You get a couple of those finally moments. It was great. We went to a 6:15 showing, which typically, you guys know, evening showings, matinees to evening, they're not very packed typically. It was full. We got there a few minutes prior, and we had to sit, just a few rows back from the screen itself. It was full. And it's just and I plan on going back again this Thursday. I'm gonna take the kid, and we're gonna go and watch it, because she hasn't got to see it. So I'm looking forward to watching it again for a second time.
Cool. Yeah, and I think we talked on here a couple times ago when we were reviewing a movie. I usually don't go past the 9.5, but because it's hard to say something's perfect, but this was about as close to perfect as you're probably going to get from me. So I did give this one a 10, and for all the same reasons you said, I think there's still some things that for like Avengers Endgame to me still holds that most iconic epic shot of where the Avengers are assembling there. But man, there was so much in this one that overall was better. The plot was better. The dialogue fit. It was like reading the comic, as you said, and it struck me as how good it really was. I was kind of surprised that it was as good.
That
as
was my thing. Is like, to me, in Avengers Endgame, when you get that, the what is it, the breakup audio of on your left, the throwback to Captain America, and then they start beaming through, and then he gets the hammer, and as you get the Avengers assemble, it's like, oh, there were things in this that topped that to me, which I never thought I would say about a comic book movie, honestly. And I'm a massive Spider-Man fan, but even I, as much as I love it, didn't think that it would ever top that right there,
Yeah, I think it really delivered on the fan service. And while we're talking about that, one of the things that came with the movie was some theaters had a new trailer for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness drop in it. I haven't necessarily seen that new trailer. I've seen some new footage and stuff at different points, but I didn't see that specific trailer that they said drop with it because they kept taking it offline and have not put it on there officially, as far as I've seen.
Well,
but
the one that's on there is cut. You can tell it's got like grainy footage where somebody has, cell phoned it from the theater, but then they mashed in some footage of the Doctor Strange movie, the original, the first movie. So you can tell it's kind of a 50-50 mix, but.
And technically, that first movie is the second movie because you can still go watch the 1970s Doctor Strange.
We're going there, huh? We're going to go there, huh?
Yeah. Okay. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but yeah, that does exist somewhere.
Oh, there's a Captain America movie out there with where his helmet is a motorcycle helmet too. So, but hey,
yeah, there's like 2 of those actually.
They made
2 of those somehow.
I sat through both of them.
And I'm pretty sure they're either on Tubi or one of those, or Roku, or one of those channels like that. So if you want to watch,
he has everything. For if you don't mind sitting through ads, I will say, if you don't mind toughing out 2 to 3 minutes and they're like commercials, they have a good mixture of everything.
Yes, they do.
I can't do it, but I mean they have it.
But while we're on the subject of Marvel movies, and Hassel, you brought this one to me. Chadwick Boseman's brother says that Chadwick would want T'Challa recast with a new Black Panther. We've kind of gone back and forth on this. So I wanted to get both of your thoughts on this. So Hassel, why don't you go first this time?
It's time. I mean, what happened was a tragedy. It's terrible. I mean, he nailed the role as good as we could ever expect anyone to do. I mean, I'd never thought that he would become such an integral part. Even though he's a big member of the Avengers in the 70s, 80s, more prominent, I suppose. Yeah, but I mean, we paid our respects this time. You filmed a Black Panther 2 without him, where it's his sister basically on sabbatical at summer school. I mean, it'll have its niche of people that go watch this and they'll really like it. But the Black Panther story is not his sister's story. I mean, let's face it, she's barely a few panels an issue before that movie come out. Before that, you rarely seen. No one gives a shit about anybody else in Wakanda. Let's just be honest. So, I mean, it's time. I mean, we've paid our respects, and hey, get somebody that can be respectful, and just. I mean, we recast actors all the time. I mean, it's a tragedy he passed, but recasting is nothing out of the realm of the normal.
Yeah. Well, Big Rob, what about you? What do you think about that news or that opinion?
I hate to say I thought Chadwick Boseman was absolutely perfect as Black Panther, as T'Challa, both characters, and so I hated that he's gone. But yeah, I'm going to agree with Hassel. We've had a little bit of time to mourn, and no one, I don't think, could. Even the great Denzel Washington probably couldn't do T'Challa justice.
Oh gosh, no!
But you've got to bring T'Challa back into the Marvel universe. You can have, like I said, his sister is Black Panther for half a movie or whatever. But again, Black Panther is T'Challa, so you've got to have T'Challa one way or the other. So you got to recast, and I hate it, but that's just the way it is.
Well, they built the MCU around him. I mean, he is a cornerstone of the MCU at this point, and we need him. And if it requires recasting, as sad as that is, I mean, it's just time. We paid our respects this time.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you guys. I think that it's probably because of the way they built him, he probably needs to be recast. I would say that they're going to reboot everything at some point anyway. They can't continue on forever with the same people and the same storylines and continue. At some point, they're going to reboot all the MCU. And my only concern is if you recast him right now instead of doing it as a reboot, how much are they going to disrespect whoever takes that spot? Because he's always going to be a comparison, right? And you can compare them too when they reboot, but at the same time, you get a little more leeway in that comparison because it's not the same thing we did before.
Is it really going to be any more of a difficulty than knowing that Wesley Snipes is still alive and he's not going to be our Blade?
For the folks who have gone mainstream MCU, they never saw Wesley Snipes as Blade, most likely.
They need to go watch those first two.
As long as they don't get Robert Downey Jr. in blackface to be the new T'Challa, I think we'll be okay.
You don't want to go thunder there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I just lost all your subscribers.
On that right there, I'm going to take this moment to plug the sticker my daughter gave me because I feel like that's just the perfect opportune time for it. So, yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
My kid knows me.
We've got a few other movie news that came out this week. The Batman, and this is actually movie and TV news, but the Batman series, the one from later CW, not the original Batman the anime series, the later one they did was a 5-season show. Was supposed to be out on Blu-ray before the end of this year, and it's been pushed back to March. I no really reason why other than maybe they just didn't have it finished. I mean, the show has been over for years, so I don't know. Unless it was just converting it to a higher definition or something.
The show was actually pretty good. I didn't care for their take on the way they redesigned a few of them, but the stories were good.
I enjoyed the last season when they brought in the other characters. Let's see what else we got coming up. Starting on this Friday, 12/24, the Roku channel, which we were just mentioning earlier, actually has a documentary series coming out called Slugfest. It's a 10-part documentary series. Talks about 50 years worth of rivalry between Marvel and DC. I believe it's narrated by Kevin Smith. The preview I saw looks pretty interesting just to talk about how intense some of the rivalry was and then how also some of it was like it's all just hype because the same folks work for both companies, but there were certain people who were exclusive to each one that were very, very, very competitive and very hateful on a lot of the things they talked about from what I saw in the previews, but looked pretty interesting. I'll probably check it out. I don't know if it's all dropping at once or if it's coming out weekly, but it does start this Friday. And then a couple of quick reminders on things coming out. The Matrix comes out tomorrow. Matrix 4 is in theaters or on HBO Max. And I know we talked about making it back to the theaters now, but I'll be honest, this is probably one that'll be on HBO Max in my house versus the theater. As much as I like the Matrix.
If it's streamable, it's streaming for me. I'm just sorry.
Yeah. I know the feeling. And then one more TV note. I know we'll have another show before this airs, but next week on 12/29, you got Book of Boba Fett kicking off on Disney Plus. Wanted to make sure we threw that one in since we're going to be talking a lot of Star Wars later. But after that, we I didn't have a good transition there, but we'll transition to comic news. DC Comics has announced that Lex Luthor will become Batman in March of 2022. I'm going to throw it to you guys to give your opinion on this. I'm going to keep mine to myself because if I talk on this one, I will go on a tirade and a rant.
I feel like you would probably go on for about the rest of the episode about this. But I mean, It's meant to be that way. I mean, from the premise I read of it, it's really meant to be the big FU to Bruce and Batman legacy, so to speak, from Lex. Because he's like pretty much I got money, you don't, bitch. I mean,
yeah.
As I haven't been reading Batman, so I'm not up to terms with the. I mean, once they killed off Alfred, it was like, you know what I mean? He's the heart and soul of a lot of the Batman titles. So, I mean, to me, it was I was done. But it's an interesting concept. I mean, Is it also, in a way, how many times are you going to do this with Lex? I mean, he done this to Superman, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah. And it's a big thing for DC right now to keep deconstructing their characters.
Yeah.
That's lazy writing, as a few of the former comic book writers have pointed out a lot of times, and that's why I can't get behind it. But
Big Rob, turned into a monster truck, you know.
Oh, we'll get to that. Big Rob, did you have any opinion on this one, or? Not
huge. I haven't really read anything in an embarrassingly long time. I've always liked Lex Luthor as a villain, so I'm kind of interested to see where it might go. But it's I don't really have anything that I can get all angry about and go on a tirade for a couple hours. That's just me.
So you don't have your pitchfork and torch like a monster does?
Not for this. I mean, other things, sure.
Well, since we're talking about them turning, a villain to a hero, we're also going to see this in Marvel now. They're actually going to be turning the Punisher. And I'm not sure how much of this is truly going to be well done, or if this is just a cancel culture thing. But starting in March, there's a new Punisher series kicking off, a 13-issue maxi series. The focus of this book is to show how Frank Castle cannot escape his future and how he will become the king of killers. And he is actually going to be the warlord of the Hand, working for the Beast of the Hand. And they're actually even changing his insignia to be from the skull to a more demonic looking skull, like a beast with horns and everything else.
But is this really not a repeat of Shadowland?
It is, but I got the feeling that they're trying their best to turn. Whereas Daredevil was redeemed at the end of this, I don't think they're going to do that with the Punisher. They keep talking from this like it's going to be fully. At the end of this, he is going to be from an anti-hero to full-on villain.
It won't happen for two reasons. One, that's just fucking stupid. For two, at some point, they're bringing Frank Castle back into the fold of the MCU. And they have already pretty much said the same as what they did with Daredevil. I forget the actor's name, and I'm embarrassed to say that right now. But the actor that played him in the series and done a great job, he's coming back when it happens. So I mean, Frank Castle has a mission, and I think while they're putting it out there, maybe it's a sleight of hand deal where he plans to destroy the Hand from within.
It may be. I have seen a lot of Marvel has called a lot of flack and has not really pushed back on it too, though, about with a lot of the stuff that's going on, some of the insurrections, the riots, whatever you want to call them, people using the Punisher logo, and Marvel's taking the heat for that, and they're not really coming back and saying, well, that people want them to cancel that, and they're like, well, they haven't taken a side one way or the other, but they're not really defending themselves either. So that's.
But it is a way for them to temporarily change his logo for say 2 years, because I'm sure there's a stretch out for a year or two, somehow, and they can temporarily change his logo. And right now, I mean, let's face it, the election's over anyways. That's no longer as big a deal as what it was this time last year, and early into this year, I suppose maybe, but. So I don't know. Personally, I just don't think it's going to last.
We'll see. I think it's going to be I would disagree with you on one thing. I think it's going to be a bigger deal than you realize, because there's a lot of stuff coming out now that the appeals court has said yes, the vaccine mandate is in place, and now there's talk today from a press conference they're going to send 500,000 tests out to people in their homes. They're going to have to test at home and stuff, and it's going to become a bigger deal again. But I don't want to get too much into that just because it does get so political. But I think that could possibly feed into what they're trying to do with the Punisher, just because of that cancel culture and what it might mean for it.
He would be a formidable foe were he to stay villain. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, and we've actually seen that before in some of the other books. I think they had besides Deadpool, I think they did do a Punisher kills the Marvel Universe, if I remember right.
Yes, they did.
I think one of the last few to take him to deal with him actually was Daredevil, if I'm not mistaken. That was kind of like everybody else is gone. But some other Marvel news we got coming out. Chris Claremont's returning to the X-Men with a new Gambit series in 2022. Not much detail on that other than I saw the one cover with Kid Storm and Gambit on it. So I'm assuming it's going to be set back in that period of time when she was regressed to a child. But again, not many details. Reckoning War, Trial of the Watcher is part of the crossover event for Fantastic Four for next year with the Reckoning War storyline that starts in February. But the Trial of the Watcher is a one-shot coming out in March, and it's supposed to focus on the one what-if universe that the Watcher has refused to watch and why he refuses to watch that one. I'm not a huge. I love the what if stories a lot of times. I'm not really a huge Watcher fan necessarily, but I am kind of interested in what they're going to do for that because that does sound interesting. Like, what is it that he refused? All the stuff he watched and gave us in what if. What is it that he does not want to look at?
Well, okay. Let me ask this, Monster. I mean, you're more up to snuff, so to speak, in the world of comics than we are at the moment. Have they done anything with the Nick Fury Watcher or the Unseen or whatever the hell he called himself?
He had something
since they done that big switch.
Just when they had that Winter Soldier book that was kind of feeding off of that a little bit because the Winter Soldier was the new man on the wall to take, Nick Fury's place. But that was a short-lived series, and I don't think they've really talked about it at all since, honestly.
Like I haven't. When I did quit reading, it was somewhere around the early 2019 or so, and that's just because I shifted to night shift for some time, and up until that point, I was like nothing. You had the big storyline where he becomes the Watcher and kills the Watcher and all this good jazz, and we got these really cool glowy eyes that as promo pieces that as bouncy balls that a lot of people have, but they've done nothing with it after.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I don't even remember when they brought the Watcher back and how or why. It's just like, okay, just forget that ever happened, and here Watu's still here.
Well, I mean, no, I've seen an actual panel or two online where they're promoing this, and it shows his return or whatnot. I guess he returned in one of the new books that just come out recently within the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it showed his actual return. It showed him the scarred up, And I've seen, promo stuff with him and Nick Fury together. And if any of our listeners, if you do know, drop it in the comments. So educate us. We'd be happy to go back and read your comments and interact with you guys. But I don't know of anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, this one caught me out of left field, to be honest, because I haven't caught up with anything that had him in it. So I'm interested to see what it is and what it's about. But I haven't read anything lately on him. And I think Marvel has one more miniseries we wanted to mention that's coming out in March. Or Hassel, I know this one's a big one for you, but Venom Lethal Protector. It's a 5-issue miniseries written by co-creator David Michelini. It goes back to Venom's early days as an anti-hero and what was going on. I'm guessing this is kind of like the Silver Surfer Rebirth, where it's storylines in between the stories we got, the stories that were never told from that time period. I'm
crossing fingers that we get a Noble Kale Ghost Rider cameo somewhere along the way. If it's only 3 pages, I'm cool with that. But I mean, I just like to see my boy return. Plus, I mean, that was just a fun era for comics. I mean, when the art wasn't shit on the books, typically the stories were great.
Yeah, and actually, you brought that up. I'm actually been rereading the Spirits of Vengeance, Rise of the Midnight Suns trade paperback, and I'm actually at the point where it's the Venom storyline is in there too, the Spirit of Venom.
Where you can take that Ghost Rider Volume 2. I will put those first 50 issues and that Spirits of Vengeance book against any book modern right now. And I promise you'll be far more fulfilled with those 2 90s titles that kind of coincide with each other. Now, once you get past Ghost Rider 50, it's trash. I'll be honest. You got maybe 3 issues here or there where you get like a quality arc, but and they ended on a high note. They when you finally did get the 94 ending in like 2003, it was it was good. But the first 50 issues are great.
Well, we're starting to see, and we'll see some more news in a little bit, but you're starting to see a resurgence of all the 90s characters. I mean, it's the 30-year anniversary. There's a new Darkhawk miniseries going on, Venom Lethal Protector, Year of Ghost Rider next year for his 50th anniversary, and it looks like there's a lot of stuff from the 90s Ghost Rider in there. And then a few figures that have been coming out. We've been getting new Warriors figures for the last year, so seems like we're really on that nostalgia train of the '90s at this point. So I'm hoping that we'll see some more of that as we
What's
get
old
into
is
it.
new again. It always circles back, baby.
Yeah, and while we're speaking about that '90s stuff, the last comic book news we had is that IDW is teaming up with Boom Studios to do a Godzilla, Mighty Morphin Power Ranger crossover. This will also be coming out in March, from what I've seen, and I'm actually pretty stoked to see that because I want to see the Dragon Zord go against Godzilla just for the heck of it.
Because he always looks so much like the Mega Godzilla, anyways. So you don't know when you're reading this. Do you want to sing "Go Go Power Rangers" or "Go Go Godzilla"? I mean, they both have theme songs. So where are we going with this?
I'm all right as long as they don't break out the Godzuki.
Yeah, if we get to that, we're going to jump a shark real fast.
Yeah, it does sound pretty interesting, though. It's the synopsis is that Rita goes over to a new universe trying to get away from the Rangers, finds that there's none in this universe, and sets her monsters loose. And as soon as she does, they're attacked by different kaiju. So it's going to be different monsters from Godzilla mythology. And then the Rangers come over to fight her, and they have to end up, fighting the monsters as well as Godzilla with the Megazord. And they said there will be a Megazord and Dragon Zord battle with Godzilla, and that's really all I want out of the book, because it's not going to be.
That's what's
it can't be that great of a depth of a story for this, because how do you have more of an interaction? But the fight's going to be what it's worth.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, what are the Rangers going to do? Go up there and start kicking his toenail for a little bit, or climbing up his leg and pissing on him? It's good. The Megazord battle is where it's going to be at.
Yeah, and that's what they're banking on. And it sounds pretty interesting, but we'll see that when it comes out. I will definitely be getting it, so we'll probably get a short review or synopsis of it at some point on the shows. But again, this is a couple months away at this point. But something that's not a couple months away that does tie into Power Rangers, because they were huge in this industry, toy industry, a while back. But moving into toys, Toys R Us returns to the U.S. Opened up their brand new 2-story flagship store this past weekend in Bergen County, New Jersey. Supposed to be having a grand opening today, but a celebration today, but I didn't see any news on that today before we recorded, so that might have been pushed. But I knew that they actually opened the store, and it's a 2-story facility. Looks pretty interesting. I've seen just a couple of pictures. Amazing amount of stuff in there, but again, I'm not sure they're going to be able to go back to the market model they had and have a ton of stores everywhere, because let's be honest, they were overpriced and they went out of business once, so that's not going to change greatly.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised they came back as a brick and mortar store, given how things have changed in the past few years, to where the vast majority is online. To be honest with you, I might have bought 2 Christmas gifts in a store. I picked up a lot of them at the store, but I ordered them all online and then went to the store and picked them up or had them delivered. So, I mean, I'm just surprised that Toys R Us tried to come back for a full brick and mortar versus
I enjoy
online.
both. I mean, I buy a ton of stuff off Big Bad Toy Store. I mean, I'll give them plugs. I mean, they get a great deal of my money. Matter of fact, I have a X-Trans box that just showed up yesterday, cup that I have to kind of try to assemble later. But so I mean, I buy a great deal of stuff from them. But I mean, I am also like along the lines of what Stan Lee said. A boob looks great on the page, but it feels better in your hand. I mean, so I like to go check them out in the store, and it is always nice to go to that store and see that toy aisle, and just browse, because sometimes those figures they look on the website. Then you see them in person, like, holy shit, this looks like a great deal better than I thought it would.
Well,
I really bought figures that way.
Yeah, and I do a lot of online ordering, but I do a lot of the pre-orders online. And honestly, a lot of the stores, the physical brick and mortar stores like your Best Buys, your Target, get them before the fans do from the online site. So I will order them, and then I'll go in the store and be like, oh, hey, there's that thing I pre-ordered. I'm going to buy it now and cancel the pre-order.
That's the only drawback of Big Bag that I will say. They seem to be the slowest of getting things. And Monster, I'm going to give you hell, because you really got my hopes up today with the news at the G.I. Joe Classifieds, where some people were going ahead and get the emails. So like all day today, I'm refreshing my email, hoping Big Bad was going to tell me nothing, and they didn't tell me nothing. Secretly, they told me fuck you, but they didn't tell me nothing.
So from what I read, that it's like everybody else. They're getting partial deliveries of stuff, because like GameStop actually got the Alley Viper and the Bat on Monday, and actually started sending them out to people who had pre-orders for them on Monday, up until they were out of. Big Bad must have done the same. Had a few of them come in. Actually, I I pre-ordered the Power Rangers Ninja Turtle crossover figures from Hasbro, and then GameStop got them in on Saturday. So I ordered actually one of them on Saturday because the other sold out immediately. But the Raphael and Tommy one was still in stock, so I ordered it Saturday. It's supposed to be here by the end of next week, and I'm like, well, there's another pre-order that's gone. But right now it's so hard to figure out. It tells you it's due here in April, but it's probably more like it's due here whenever the damn thing shows up and we get it in our hand and can ship it to you until we run out, and then you get it the next go around.
Well, it's kind of crazy. What's coming is just jumping around. Is like literally, last week out of nowhere, I got the email that the Iron Spider helmet, from Endgame had arrived, and it was like not supposed to come out to spring 2022. And it was like, oh, hey, surprise here! This $140 helmet has showed up. Congratulations.
Yeah, my X-Force pack showed up, and it was like, oh, hey, this thing that you ordered that was supposed to be here in March, guess what? It arrived early.
Yeah.
Great. I got to
But shit we've had on order for 8 months is still floating somewhere.
Yeah, I've gotten all of the last wave of Power Rangers Lightning Collection that was supposed to be out this year, except for the one pink and space one, and it keeps getting pushed back since October. Now it's all the way back to December 31st for release date. Yeah, my X-Force pack that was due here in March is on the way to the house now. So it's insane. But I get it. It's not all their fault. Your shipment is here on the boat somewhere, on one of these boats in some harbor somewhere. But, they still continue to pump stuff out because a lot of our news this week was toy news. And, McFarlane has actually put out several things this week, starting with the Witcher toys. And I have not finished The Witcher yet. I've got 3 episodes of season 2 left. I'll probably finish it in the next day or so because I get off work after tomorrow. But looks like we've got Geralt in Witcher mode, Ciri, and a mega figure of the horse Roach, all set to come out in April of next year. And it says April, but that's liable to be either January or June of sometime.
Yeah.
October.
yeah, maybe. By the time season 3 hits, we might have it.
There you go. McFarlane seems to be a little better about getting his stuff out. I mean, I don't know, maybe if his toy company is all USA based or what, but he seems to be a little better about getting stuff to the shelves.
Well, I'm wondering too if he's holding them and not announcing them until they get here, because a couple other news points we got from him kind of seemed that way, because DC Collectibles showed in 2020 before DC and AT&T truly mothballed DC Collectibles and said, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. They had one last group of deceased characters from their deceased book where they were, zombified heroes and stuff. And McFarlane said, hey, we're going to put them out for you guys. Well, this was in March of 2020. And now we finally get these characters coming out in January and April. And they just went up for pre-order on Amazon in the last week. And it's like, okay, did you just hold them until you had them ready to send out? But we've got a Flash, a Supergirl, Superman, and Harley Quinn, all zombified versions. I think except for maybe Harley. They come out in January. Then in April, you've got zombified Batgirl and Nightwing, and I believe Deathstroke is a zombie, but Red Hood is still human because he was in the storyline, as was Harley Quinn. But
did they at least retool them a little bit, or is it just
no? It's the exact DC collectible molds.
Oh wow!
So, there's less posability, and they're not the full 7-inch like most of McFarlane's stuff. It's the full DC collectibles. It's just McFarlane's doing the distributing of them to finish off what they had in production at the time they mothballed the facilities. But again, talking about them, the other stuff that they've got coming out, there's one thing I've seen go up for pre-order that we'll come back to in a minute because I have to shake my head at it. But some of the stuff we saw that we talked about last week, Hassel, DC Multiverse figures, we're starting to see the images of those pop up, and some of those went up for pre-order today. But we've got a Endless Winter Aquaman, a new 52 version Martian Manhunter. We actually see what he looks like now. It is the full new 52 version for the gold label. And then a General Zod, which is a new 52 version, and Solar Suit Superman, which is Rebirth Superman in a black costume. So it's really another repaint, like you said it would probably be, with just a new head mold with the beard instead of the mullet and everything else that we wanted.
I pre-ordered the fuck out of it.
But it's amazing, because those have already gone up for pre-order. So I'm assuming that most of this stuff is already almost here or already in the States, the way McFarlane's been doing his. Yeah, maybe that's why his stuff is closer together.
I don't think the date was too far out either. I mean, it was maybe spring.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to look at them because the pre-order just went up today, but I saw the pictures of them, and they look really good. But again, I don't know how he's getting his stuff here sooner, but I do have to give him some. Yeah, I have to beat them down a little bit now for the latest thing that they put up for pre-order though. Coming out in January of 2022 with a $90 price tag, Death Metal DC Multiverse Batmobeast. I don't know who wants this or who needs this, because even the most hardcore Batman fan probably does not.
You know who would want this? A fucking 4-year-old. So they can punk a toy through the fucking mud. But they're at $90. They're not getting it.
Yeah, no.
I looked at all the pictures of it, and the body detaches, and you got the roll cage on the inside and whatnot, but it looks like the drizzling shits. And it looks like literally the toy you see your nieces and nephews pushing on the mud on their knees. It's just like, really, dude?
It looks like the Tonka truck that we buy for, the less than 4-year-old kids.
The very first Tonka that everyone gets.
But moving from DC to Marvel, they had their Marvel Legends Fan First Thursday last week, which went really weird because usually when they have their stuff, they announce everything in the Fan First and then put it for pre-sale. But the pre-sales went up at 11 o'clock and the Fan First wasn't until 1. So like 2 hours ahead of time, they were releasing a lot of the figures they were going to show. But we got a lot of stuff coming out for Doctor Strange. Most of the stuff was April release date, but we have a full lineup of Multiverse of Madness figures. There's an MCU-inspired Doctor Strange, an Astral Plane Doctor Strange, a Baron Mordo, a Wong, America Chavez, and the Build-A-Figure is Rentra, which was his student/servant in some of the later books. He's a Minotaur-looking figure. And then we got 2 comic characters in this, being Despair and Sleepwalker, which I am fully excited about. Sleepwalker.
They're the only 2 good-looking figures of the entire wave, and that's because they're 90s figures. Everything else, they're Build-A-Figure that looks like Beast Boy. Looks terrible. I'm not a fan of cinematic figures anyways.
If they'd have went comic inspired on that figure, he would have probably looked great because the comic version was actually pretty cool. But again, he's a 90s character, so we've still got this 90s nostalgia hitting. I think other things that they announced, there's a Defenders Doctor Strange figure that's a Target exclusive. He's like $32. No official release date yet. We're assuming probably April, just because everything else was listed as an April release date.
Was that the one where he looks like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones?
Yes, where he has the black and red Defenders costume and has the coolest thing about that figure is the diorama piece where the sling ring portal in the background, because those would be nice to have, but I don't need that whole figure for that.
If you're building sets, those would be nice, but I would suggest wait till some asshole goes to selling those on eBay and they just sell those.
Sounds like a hassle trick.
You know what? Don't knock it till you sell it.
What about the other Target exclusive? Have you seen it, Hassel? The Thor Ragnarok clone?
I am actually excited about that, and I want to buy the damn thing, but Target they're fishing my account so much right now with G.I. Joe stuff, and the Power Rangers I have pre-ordered where, at least once a week they just snatch $70 out, and then it may or may not come back a week later, and
yeah, their pre-order is not necessarily the best because they keep charging you until it arrives, unlike most others that say, hey, we won't charge you. We'll charge you initially, the charge goes away, and then when it comes out, we'll charge you about a week ahead of release date. I'd much rather
just go ahead and either pay for it or leave me the fuck alone until it hits your damn warehouse and then make me pay for it. But do not sit there and just randomly take $40 for this pre-order, $70 for this pre-order, $35 for this pre-order at random times, and then okay, this occasionally a comeback. This a fallback. And it's never the same time.
They have to renew it every 30 days because their system takes it off of your account. So every 30 days, it's going to go away and come right back the next day. I have the same thing because I still have a Tyrannosaurus or Tyranno Sentry, the red Sentry character from Lightning Collection on mine. So every month I get charged $29.34 and it just sits there. Eventually,
I got
pay off.
3 Joes, and I got the white Ranger and his Ninjetti outfit. So I just periodically I see where there's 35 here, 40 here, 70 here, and it's like I'm just one of those weirdos that I see things like this and I'm like, hey, I ain't been to damn Target. What the hell is this? And in my mind, I'm not thinking about these pre-orders, consistently. So, but the Thor that you're talking about looks amazing. The normal head has the red eyes. He has the alternate head where you have the battle damage. alternate hands with the battle damage where they're robotic looking. I mean, it looks great. It would almost make me buy a Hercules figure to take these out of the pack and have the battle. The only thing that could make this figure better would be if it came with the head where Hercules used the hammer and knocked like the top half off. Like if we could get that morbid scene, that would make it better.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because of most of the things with Target, and we've talked a couple of times already about how things are shipping in and out, they're still not putting release dates on most of the stuff like that. So even if you go pre-order the Thor, which is available, the Ragnarok, which is available now, when you're going to get it, nobody knows. It's roll the dice and just pick a day.
He's the one I'm going to gamble that you guys can stroll across one day and just text me and say, "Hey, we found one." Yeah. I'm going to gamble on this one just because the Marvel Legends seem to be a little more easily available than what, the Joes are and the Rangers and some things.
Yeah, and they probably will be. But we also had a few other announcements during that fan first. The 20th anniversary Toy Biz style Hulk. I know, Hassel, you were excited about that one. The price tag on that was pretty high. I think it was like $43 or $44, but for what they're doing with those 20th anniversary ones, it looks really neat, especially the effects that they've given the figure. So you can make a huge diorama set with it. It looks great.
Well, he's a big figure, and at the same time, you got the ground stomp with even the effect of the what you would see as your power bang in the comic. It's the splash effect. It looked great to me. I mean, even the head, it captures the Savage Hulk really well. I like it.
I believe that one's set for a May release date from what I've seen. A couple other things they shared during their live stream, but this one they didn't have a picture of, but Ulick the Troll is going to be a Walmart exclusive. I kind of wanted to see that one because it sounded interesting. It's not one I'll go in for, but I just wanted to see what it looked like, how well it came out. But they do have their seasonal Walgreens in US / GameStop in Canada exclusives. It's going to be a Villains Wave for next year. We've seen the first one before, the classic Baron Zemo, but then we got a shot of the Jigsaw that's coming out, which honestly, I'm pretty sure that body's a reuse of anybody who had a tuxedo on, but the head sculpt looks pretty cool, and I'm not sure it's one that I would really spend my money on to put in the collection, but I'm sure there's someone out there who wants those villains, especially if you're doing something with the Punisher.
It's basically the Hammerhead figure with a different head.
Yeah, I was trying to think of who it was in that suit, but yeah. The really nice wave that they did share with us, though, and then there's no pre-orders up for you yet, no announcement of releases, but the X-Men 2022 Wave 1 set, the Build-A-Figure is a Reaver Bonebreaker. So this is the one they mentioned a while back, said, hey, we're going to make a figure next year that has no legs. And actually, this one looks really cool because they even put the sunglasses on him, and they're actually pivoted into his head with a pen, so you can actually raise the glasses up and down on his head. Like, if you've seen the scenes, there's a scene where he's holding the glasses up and laughing, and that was pretty neat how they went to that depth with it. But the rest of the figures in the wave is you've got a first appearance Sabretooth, which I thought looked really good for the skinny Sabretooth from the Iron Fist books. Maggot, who not one I really necessarily care for, but he looked pretty good. He's on that oversized buck that they use for Omega Red and Cyber. Darwin, and then we've got a few that we've seen. We've got Vulcan that we've seen before. Then a few that were near and dear to me. They got the Siren, so I one step closer to having my X-Force team done for. And they made the joke that they can only do one Cassidy a year, so we probably won't see Banshee, but at least they got Siren, and at least they got the cape right for once, because you brought that up, Hassel, that they never get that cape in between the arms right.
Well, honestly, though, when they say one per year, though, she's announced in 2021. Does that mean we have hope for 2022?
I guess maybe in January or December for a 2023 release, but she probably won't show up till then either, so.
Yeah.
And then the last figure in the wave was a classic Havoc. We've gotten Havoc in that classic suit several times, so that wasn't as big a deal. But the way they did the power effects for this one, I don't know why they haven't done it before, but it was amazing looking.
I think I'm gonna try to buy those off eBay to put on my classic Havoc figure.
Yeah, it was amazing looking. And while we're on Marvel, we've got one more thing from Marvel News. There's a 1/6 scale from Hot Toys that was revealed. It's Doctor Strange from No Way Home. supposedly has a lot of details to the mystic artifacts. You know, like and even the detail in the figures, because they always go all out. But like the hands, they're actually drawing the scars and stuff on the back of his hands from all the surgeries. You've got multiple hands to swap out, an LED light up platform. All the effects light up with LED lights. I haven't seen anything about it going up for pre-order yet or when it's being released, but they did reveal that late last week, probably right around the same day that they had the Fan First Thursday. So everything was coming up Doctor Strange. I'm sure they're getting ready for that movie now that Spider-Man is out, but it looked pretty interesting. Transitioning from that back to some of our other toy properties, G.I. Joe. They've got some 1/6 scale figures coming out from 3-0. We've seen before Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. This time we've got a new drawings for Lady J, Firefly, and Robot to come out sometime next year. I don't know if you've seen them, Hassler or Rob, but these were really detailed drawings and sketches for them, so they look like they'll be pretty good. I don't really buy the 1/6 scale. I don't have space for them, to be honest. But yeah, they look really good.
Yeah, the last one I seen was the Storm Shadow, but I did dig the fact that the camo they give him was his Joe outfit camo. I kind of dug that. The little weird Tetris-y looking gray spots, I always kind of dug that. That was a cool look for me.
You would probably like the Firefly one then if you check out the picture from it. It was actually pretty interesting looking. They did the full camo for him. He's got the full pullover face mask and everything. He's got the backpack, the drones and stuff. Looked pretty good. Super 7 also revealed some G.I. Joes this past week. They've got more of their reaction figures coming out. They've listed Bazooka, Lady J, a new Storm Shadow, Major Blood, some toy soldier from the Games Master, which is from one specific episode. I'm pretty sure it's like the Nutcracker Prince looking sort of thing from the episode where they fought the toys. There's a Cobra Shock Trooper that has multiple versions of him, a new Duke, a bunch of blue shirt figures, which is basically their version of their Navy figures, and they're all different skin tones, different heads. So there's like 4 to 6 different versions of those. And then there's just announced today is an Arctic Rescue Vehicle pack from the very first miniseries. Where Snake Eyes goes into the snow and has a radioactive canister and falls out, and this old man picks him up and puts him in a dog sled. It's got the sled, the dogs, the old guy, and Snake Eyes in a irradiated form, and he's dragging them around. But they look cool, but I am not a reaction. I have 4 reaction figures, soon to be 5, because while we're on that, I'll go ahead and mention that Transformers revealed their Wave 5 reaction figures that are coming out in February of next year, and it's Prowl, RC, Grimlock, and Reflector. I do have 4 of the Transformer ones. I'll probably buy Prowl because he was one of my top tier characters, and I'll put him up there with them. But I just can't buy those for the price of them and the few points of articulation. And even the ones I have bought, they're just in pack hanging on the wall, and I'm looking in that direction because they're hanging right over there near my Transformers. But
the nostalgia factor don't sell me. Those are the Marvel ones that are in that same style. I'm not a fan of them. But maybe if they do the Viper from that episode with barbecue, the Viper is coming. The Viper is coming, and that wound up being the Wiper.
The window wiper. Yeah, I love that episode. But
maybe that guy. We get the Wiper with the squeegee. I might could get him.
Yeah, and while we're talking about the Super 7, we transitioned to Transformers there, but the Transformers toy line, the father of the Transformers toy line, Henry Ornstein, and I hope I said his name right, passed away this past week at the age of 98. He's actually the gentleman who worked for Hasbro that went over to Japan and found the Diaclone and Microchange properties and said, hey, this could be, in his own words, were quoted as, this could be the transformational toy line that the U.S. needs right now, and brought it back over and adapted it into the Transformers with the help from the Marvel team, because Bob Budiansky from Marvel did a lot of the concepts of who the characters are, wrote the names down, and but Henry Ornstein's the guy from Hasbro who partnered with Marvel and everyone else to bring those over and start selling them as the Transformers, and
changed millions of young men's lives.
Yeah, and this guy actually he had, and I don't think anybody realized how instrumental he was to a lot of the toy properties, but he had over 100 patents to his name for Hasbro and maybe a few other toy properties that he worked with. For when he passed away, he got 100 patents to his name from different ones he's done. So, and
he was also the innovator of the televised poker gambling.
Yeah.
He's a guy that pretty much said, hey, convinced stations like, hey, you can market this and have some of the property here, and that's why you now have poker in your television.
Yeah, he can find them. He was very good at finding some obscure properties and saying, I think this can be this if you just morph it into this little thing here, and it can be, become very popular. He was very good at that. I said 100 patents to his name, and some of those included some of the games that Hasbro owns. I think Monopoly was one of those, and a few others. But I mean, he was just amazing what he was able to do. But it, passed away this past week at 98. So we'll give him all the respect he deserves, and wish his family and friends well in their times. But moving forward, we got just a few more things, and I'll try to go through these quickly because I know we've been on news for a while. But if they quit putting stuff out, I'd have to quit writing it down. I'd be a little happier. But Ninja Turtles this week, NECA released some images for a new Foot Soldier and Mouser pack. I had it in my notes that it was rumored to pre-order this week, but it actually went up late this afternoon for pre-order. So they look pretty neat. They're all animated style, but most of NECA stuff looks pretty good anyway. It's just one more pack of items for them. And then moving to Star Wars, since our focus topics this week is about Star Wars, I figured we'd share that for our news last. But a few different things coming out. Bo-Katan has a replica helmet coming out, which looks pretty neat. But I honestly, all those helmets after a while look the same and just repainted at some point. But they did look pretty good. I think it's up for pre-order now. I don't remember what the price was on it. I think it's probably $99 is what most of those have been. Maybe a little more now, but I think inflation.
Yeah, I think I've seen it for like 125 somewhere, but I could be wrong about that.
No, I mean they've been going up. I don't keep up with them because I don't buy too many of those. I had bought the Power Ranger replica helmets except for the pink one because the paint job was atrocious on it. If you I've gotten the chance to look at like 3 of them, and every one of them the paint is just splotchy in the wrong color and all over the place. I haven't bought it, but I've got the rest of those. That's the only ones I buy like that though. We've got some more Star Wars vintage scale stuff coming out. Book of Boba Fett. You've got the Boba Fett and Fennec Shand vintage figures. And we had a conversation earlier over the weekend when we were talking about what we were going to do for the episode about the Boba Fett being the first vintage style figure in a cardboard box completely. And I know, Rob, you sent me a few more right before we started recording. Apparently there's some more of these that are going to come out. And what was it that you said they were called? I can't remember where they were.
It's the Vintage Collection Deluxe editions. The vintage collection is more or less a continuation of the old Kenner toy line from years ago. And Kenner had some deluxe collection stuff, and it was like Boba Fett, but he had this big giant blaster. There was a Luke Skywalker in the Millennium Falcon gunner seat. So it's kind of like a figure and a pretty big accessory back then. These just seem to be figures with a couple of small accessories, which kind of sucks. But the 3 that I've seen besides the Boba Fett is Ahsoka with a Grogu figure, an Incinerator Trooper with a Grogu figure, because you got to make all that Baby Yoda money you can, and a Trooper with a Tri-Mount heavy blaster. All 3 of those from The Mandalorian. And the boxes look cool. I don't know if the figures are going to look cool because you can't see them, but the boxes look great.
Yeah, and I think the big thing we talked about was the fact that for us as collectors or someone who's really into those or specifically says I want this, they're going to buy those. But the casual fan walking by it in the store is going to look at a Star Wars vintage figure on a bubble and can see the figure. Or they're going to see that in the box. They're probably going to pass on the box because it's also going to have a heavier price tag anyway. And
they
are
banking on fanboys really carrying this line, because I promise you, when Granny June goes to the damn Walmart to buy her little baby a toy, she's not buying something she can't see. She's not saying, well, that's a cool picture. Well, where's the damn toy? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's not much more than a box to the average person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't see the line doing very well myself.
I agree. And I think we talked about this the other day. I agree. I'd rather have, a visibility on the picture. But, we bought an awful lot of vehicles. Back in the day, the Kenner G.I. Joe stuff, the vehicles was in boxes with no windows.
Vehicles.
You know, a lot of vehicles. I know a vehicle.
You were going to open it though. That's the thing.
I know, and that's what I'm saying is I think if these do well, that's where this line is going to go. Is it's going to be not vehicles necessarily, but the bigger accessories and stuff like that. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but I'm thinking that's what their plan is.
It's going to be an interesting test for them.
Yeah.
If they got the bigger accessories, it may do well, but to me, like what you're talking about with the vehicles and whatnot, you were opening them. There was no doubt. There was one slice of tape. You were opening that bad boy, putting it together. Your average collector is not taking that figure out of a box. So we buy them with a displayed view because we're going to put it on a damn wall or a shelf or whatever. You can still see the figure and the packaging, typically pretty neat. But it's nothing but packaging, though.
Yeah, and since we're running a little closer on time, we'll kind of not fly through, but we'll run through these last couple of notes. We've got a Shore Trooper 4-pack. That's a Hasbro Pulse exclusive. That went up for pre-order last Friday on the 17th at 4 p.m. $42 price tag, which isn't bad. I mean, it's $11 a figure for a 4-pack. But that's set to come out in August of 2022. And Rob, you corrected me the other day. That is from Rogue One, correct?
Yes, sir. The Shore Troopers.
Yep. And then the last thing, since this is the last episode we're going to have before Christmas, I wanted to make sure the last news piece was a Christmas one, but we've seen the holiday-inspired Black Series wave announced. Very similar to last year. It's figures that we've already gotten in Black Series, but repainted in a holiday deco. The only problem with this is Christmas will be this Saturday, and these figures are nowhere to be seen and nowhere for pre-order. So I guess they're Christmas for next year. But they were supposed to be out this year. But we've got a Scout Trooper, a Wookiee who looks like the Abominable Snowman from the cartoon. I love the fact that he looks like that. There's a Stormtrooper, a Mandalorian warrior, and a Protocol droid. And which one was it, Rob, that had the baby Grogu ugly Christmas sweater on? Because that made me laugh. I'm gonna have to buy that one just for that.
Yeah, the Scout Trooper has the baby Grogu, the baby Yoda, the Grogu sweater.
Yeah, that one was pretty cool. I'm gonna probably have to invest in that one. If nothing for else, I'll invest in for the kid because he'll enjoy that. But I guess it'll be Christmas of next year before we see it because
this year Christmas you guys just get lumps of coal.
Yeah. It might your toy might be here on this barge, but we don't know where that barge is at this point. It's probably on Jabba's barge somewhere on Tatooine, and it'll eventually make it here by hyperspace. I don't know. But since we've made it through all the news finally, we can dive into our focus topics, which the whole reason we invited Big Rob to this one because he is our resident Star Wars expert out of our group of people, and he, while I know a small chunk and Hassel knows a small chunk, Rob knows everything. So. Yeah, we go to him for Star Wars trivia and stuff most of the time, but we're going to hit on our first focus topic, which is we wanted to talk about Star Wars media. So, and I've been interrupted and told I must share this since it is Christmas.
That's
Baby Grogu Christmas.
Nice.
But so we wanted to, but for what we want to do for focus topics is we wanted to go through and talk about, how do we feel about the different media, the different trilogies, right? We had the prequels, the originals, and the sequels, and how did they rank for us, and what went along with them, and then how did current movies and shows fit in? So I'm actually going to shut up and take a break for a few minutes after talking through the news before I cough myself to death anyway, because I've been holding it in, and I'm going to let Hassel and Big Rob kick us off with this.
Well, Big Rob, you're the guest and the expert extraordinaire, so you take the lead and put us on our place. I imagine we're going to probably be along the lines of the same anyways. So kick it off for us.
Probably. Okay. I swear I'm terrible at this kind of stuff, but so examining the Star Wars trilogies, because I'm 40 years old and I'm going to be in that same group. I'm going to say, for me, the original trilogy is always going to be the best. Nothing can top those. And then, I like the prequel trilogy probably second and the sequels, third. That's just me. And probably you guys are very similar opinion of that. My nieces and nephews are 10, 14, and 16, and they probably have a completely different opinion, and that's okay. They're wrong, but they're children, so it's okay for them to be wrong.
Would you say
You know,
your nieces and nephews probably go prequels, sequels, original?
Probably prequel, original, and then sequel. I don't even think Isabella's seen all of the sequel trilogy, but they like the prequel stuff. It's what they grew up with, and I think they kind of felt a kinship with seeing Anakin grow up. And so they kind of like the prequel stuff better. Which, you know, they also, you know, had the Clone Wars that kind of fleshed a lot of that stuff out. We didn't really have any TV shows to flesh our stuff out other than
hey.
droids
We had
and
droids and Ewoks.
I said better than droids and Ewoks. They didn't quite last quite as long, and they didn't. But you know, they had some really good moments. I've seen them, so you know.
There's something about
you know, the original trilogy
as a child by it. I think whatever you see, you know, that captivates your imagination as a child probably is where you gravitate towards.
Well, in fairness,
100%.
In fairness too to the prequels and the sequels, you know, I am an original trilogy person myself. I like it the best, but at the same time, the production value of that versus what you can digitally do now, the production value is vastly different. I mean, I can't knock the originals, but they don't look the same as the prequels and the sequels. I mean, because you can do more stuff now.
Well, just the action itself. I mean, I know George went back and, you know, tried to, you know, he tried to dice it up a little bit and, you know, put some little flair in there. But at the end of the day, your saber battle is extremely, compared to the other, you know, 6 movies, let's be honest. The saber battle is slow, methodical. What a actual sword battle would have been like in medieval age versus, you know, in the prequels and sequels, you get flips and, you know, 2 Jet Li type motherfuckers going at it with light swords. I mean, you know, so you didn't have that going on. I mean, yeah, Luke done a little fancy flip here or there, and Vader would, you know, slowly trot after him, but you know, you just didn't have that.
Yeah, they still fought like 2 guys wearing suits of armor holding 25-pound swords.
And you know what? Their battle looks a little more believable and more enjoyable to me, but that's just me.
I kind of compare it to. Oh, go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, as far as believability, I love General Grievous's and Obi-Wan's battle. You know, all those lightsabers spinning around. That's not believable at all, but you know, it saves on acid. It sends me on a nice little psychedelic trip.
It's enjoyable, I will say that.
You know what it reminds me of, though, is comparison, not to in any form other than how it's evolved in the production quality. Is look at wrestling from the NWA days, and you couldn't even jump off the top rope because that was illegal. You had a few ladder matches, but people were jumping from halfway up the ladder, whereas now you're on a 17-foot ladder getting speared off of a belt hanging from the ceiling. I mean, that is changed.
Believability is out of the window. The genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I compare it to, though, right? It went from being these 2 guys standing here in the dark, very slowly parrying against each other before, okay, I'm going to take a swing and block or whatever. But then you look at even in the prequels when Darth Maul spinning the thing around like he's got a bow staff there, and I'm like, you know, that's a laser. I wouldn't be spinning it quite like that because I'd be afraid I'm going to cut my own limb off, you know?
Oh, but he's doing it in parkour at the same time. I mean,
parkour.
Yeah. So that's probably the biggest drawback to me in some of the action scenes. You're either going to live or die by it. There is no in between.
So what? And I think even for like my son and, you know, your nieces and nephews, Rob, you know, even though they're coming up kind of in the sequel trilogy point instead of the prequels, it's still they still don't gravitate towards the sequels. I don't know what it is about those that just it's turned a lot of people off. I'm kind of curious of what you guys think of it, because I watch them and they're an okay movie, but at the same time, like, it's not really Star Wars to me. It just doesn't fit the same.
To me, it's okay. The original has no. Well, I'm not gonna say it has no flaws. They have plot holes, and And to me, as enjoyable as Jedi is, it is the lull in the three out of the original, just because, you know, and it probably wouldn't have been had Empire just not been so fucking great. But, you know, so the original's always here. But when it comes to the sequels and prequels, they both have a stinker in their three movies. I think we could probably all agree if you took like 85% of episode one and trashed it, you would be lost shit. So that movie kind of shit the bed for the sequel, the prequels. I apologize, but 2 is a very good movie. 3 is amazing. Yeah. And then when you go to the sequels, they started out good. I mean, that first one was super great. But the only flaw it had to me was the fact that you had Luke Skywalker for 8 seconds. I mean, I get the whole search for him, so forth and so on. You're establishing new characters. No problem with that. He should have been in the movie far longer than that. Don't just try to leave us on a cliffhanger. It's not like you're coming back next week where you're going to have a big audience. You bitches waited 2 years. So that's really the only flaw I have in the first of those. Because, I mean, Kylo Ren establishes himself as a badass 30 seconds in the movie. When you force stop a damn blast and hold it, I mean, not just deflect it like Vader would. He held it. That's fucking gangster. Yeah. But then next thing you know, they shit the bed entirely with episode 8. That movie was utter trash. That is not Luke Skywalker. I don't give a damn what anybody says. And you did have the one cool sequence there, you know, where his Force Ghost or whatever battles Kylo and kicks his ass even as a Force Ghost. I mean, that was a cool scene. You got Yoda. So, I mean, basically, that was their episode 1, where 15% of the movie is good. The rest is trash. But by this point, you've killed off all your legacy characters. You kill off Han in episode 1, which was stupid, or episode 7. I apologize.
Yeah,
because you just completely eliminated what would have been masterful in the reunion of Han, Leia, Luke. Every fan of this series wanted to see that. You're robbed of that. So right there, you trashed it. And you kill off Luke in the second one. And not even a very meaningful death. He just vanishes. Third one, Leia's croaked, which, I mean, you had no choice. I mean, I understand circumstances. They were what they were, but if you'd have played episode 8 out like you should have, we would have had some on-screen moments that we were robbed of. And honestly, I don't even know if it was Luke. Even, did he appear on screen in 9? Did we get a Force Ghost Luke? I don't remember. I remember voices. I remember voices of various Jedi. But I mean, did we get a Force Ghost Luke?
I feel like we did, but you know, it's been a while since I've seen it. I'd have to go back and watch it, honestly.
Which one? Don't get me wrong, the last one wasn't bad to me. I mean, I enjoyed Palpatine returning, and I mean, you got the redemption of Kylo, which was pretty cool.
To answer your question, House, wasn't the 9 the one? Isn't that where Rey went to throw the lightsaber away or whatever, and Luke catches it as a Force Ghost?
What was that? I mean, I don't remember. I said that's the fact that it's not that memorable is where they went wrong.
But and I think that's the telling story, right? You can, you can go back and you can remember a lot of things from the original trilogy, and there's some things from the prequels you remember, but how much do you really remember from the sequels?
I mean, I've probably seen Force Awakens 6-7 times. I enjoyed it, like I said, other than the Luke aspect of it. I may have watched episode 8 3 times, and I think I've seen 9 twice.
Yeah,
and it wasn't that it wasn't enjoyable. I actually enjoyed 9 because it felt like they tried to fix. Abrams tried to fix where the previous director just totally, pooped in pants, But there was only so much you could do at that point.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen the original trilogy characters come back together again too for a scene. But now I will say that the one thing I will, they didn't have to do it as early as they did, but Han's death was the most meaningful one out of any of their deaths.
Oh, and he didn't die in vain. I will say that it was a character builder.
Yeah.
And I think Kylo needed to kill him. I just would have liked to have seen the reunion of the legacy characters beforehand. And almost like he'd have murdered Han in front of Leia and Luke. That would have made it his turn to the dark side even more, just, oh, you scumbag.
Yeah, that could have been interesting. Rob, you were fixing to say something.
Oh, no, I was, the fanboy in me, yeah, I would love to have seen the legacy characters get back together, but I think that killing Han when he did, that brought all of us into the movie. I think up until that point, we were just like, okay, maybe just me. Up until the Han death, we were all just like, oh, this is great. We're finally getting a new Star Wars movie, and we just kind of, it's a popcorn flick. But when that lightsaber shot out of Han's back, I was instantly brought back into the franchise, and I was just like, holy fucking shit, what just happened? So for you, here?
That's what invested you in this new trilogy.
Oh God, yeah.
I kind of feel the same way, man. I hadn't thought about it like that, but you're right. Up until that point, it was like, it's a good movie, but I'm not really invested. I don't care enough about anybody. And then you kill one of your major characters from the originals.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not even arguing that he didn't have to die in that episode. I just, the only flaw, like I said, is Luke should have been in more of the movie. I mean, I think they were trying to Game of Thrones it and just cliffhanger you. But I mean, when you got a 2-year gap between your movies, it's a little too much.
I agree on one hand, but I think if they'd have gotten somebody, if they'd have let J.J. Abrams do all 3 of them, or gotten somebody who actually liked Star Wars to do Episode 8, and we'd have gotten the real Luke Skywalker, I think we might have forgiven The Force Awakens not having very much Luke Skywalker, because you go from the last time you see him was in Return of the Jedi, 20-something years later, get a movie, and he doesn't show up to the very end, and he still don't say anything, and then you got to wait 2 more years, and then when he does talk, he completely trashes his image.
Yeah, because he's not even Yoda. Like, where Yoda is hiding on Dagobah, he's doing the same, but he's not even like, you never get a vibe like, oh man, what's a great Jedi Master. Not once do you feel that. I mean, he's doubting himself even when Yoda does appear to him.
So let's expand on what you're talking about a little bit, because I think that leads us into, based on what we've seen from the sequels, and we weren't all very invested in them, but now we're saying what we want to see, what we would have liked to have seen out of some of the stuff, but we got some of that with Luke and the Mandalorian. That final scene of the last season, that's the Luke Skywalker we want.
Amazing.
Right? So
yes,
there's money in a spinoff of that right there. Give me the cat that plays Winter Soldier in that role. You know what? Disney Plus could go up to $25 a month, and I would pay for it. I mean,
but that's kind of how we say the sequels didn't really do it for us, but now we've got all these current movies and the TV shows that Disney Plus is doing to fill in some of these gap areas, and even stuff like Rogue One, even though it was done under the movie banner, Disney banners, it filled in a plot gap. And even though we know these characters are going to die, they ain't nobody making it out of this. I was invested in them, and I wanted to see their story. I think all the stuff that they're doing outside of the main trilogies has been much better than what they did with the last set of trilogies myself. And I think that's kind of, that was one of the things we were talking the other day.
Favreau for that. I mean, he is a fanboy like us. He loves the characters. He loves the mythology. It's
you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
but I think
Dave Filoni, is that who it is, Al?
Yeah, that's the other guy. Those 2 guys, man. Anytime you see them talking about Star Wars, you can see the love, or you can hear the love they have for the franchise. And I think if Kathleen Kennedy will ignore them for a couple of years, they'll fix a lot of this shit. keep her away from everything else, and they'll fix a lot of this for us.
They get her hands out of the kitchen pretty much.
There's a lot of. Go ahead.
I've heard back and forth.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I've heard
I'm sorry.
both. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I would say that that was one of the things we were talking about today is how do the current movies and shows fit in, and I think they fill in all the gaps that you're looking for and take you to the place you want to be with Star Wars. Because how much of that they've made so far on Disney Plus have you not wanted to sit down and watch?
They've done a far better job satisfying the fans, but at the same time establishing new characters. Because I'm all for new characters. I mean, that is not where the sequels failed. Finn was a very intriguing character.
For one movie.
Yeah, Ray herself to begin with was a very intriguing character. Even what was the pilot?
Poe
Dameron.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, really interested in all these people, and then I kind of wouldn't have minded the backstory on the old chap that died in the opening scene. That you got the vibe, was a previous Jedi Master or something along the lines of tied to the Jedi. But then after that, it was like the character development just stopped. Where the series, you're taking interest in like Bill Burr showing up, as a former Imperial or Rebel troop or wherever he was, to help out and just random characters, and like they made an entire new villain with the Grand Moff that showed up in this season that was just great.
So let me ask you guys. Let me ask you guys this question: would you prefer to see them continue doing just Disney Plus TV shows as miniseries, or do you want to see new movies? Which one would you prefer at this point?
If Filoni and Favreau have their hands in, I'd rather see series of movies right now. They get it right.
I don't want the TV shows to ever go away, but I'm a movie guy. I want to go back to the theater and watch that shit crawl across my screen again.
That is fair.
I think I'm of the same mind as Hassel on this. I kind of want the shows because I know that if they go movies, it becomes so big and so mainstream. Kathleen Kennedy, I don't know her personally, have nothing against her personally, but from the amount of stuff that I've seen that she has produced for them, is not what I want to see. So, and I know she can have her hands in that. Yeah, and I know she'd have her hands in it because it's mainstream, right? Even more so than their TV shows, because movies versus TV shows, money pile.
I think.
And I thought I had read where she was kind of, because of the showing of the TV shows versus, the movies and the fan criticism, I thought Disney had pulled her, but I could be mistaken on that.
And Rob can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but what I've read is that majority of the Star Wars team at Disney want her gone and don't like working with her and don't like her direction, but the Bob Chapek or whatever his name is, the CEO of Disney altogether, is fully behind her. He's like, no, she's the person in charge. We follow her.
I think that's kind of what I read as well.
Well, when it's broke, you got to fix it. I mean, let's be honest.
I've seen a headline today. I didn't read the article, but I seen a headline today that Bob's fixing to get kicked out, and they're bringing Bob Iger back possibly for the head of Disney. I didn't read the article, so I don't know what actually is going on there. But I thought that was an interesting headline.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing is, their other big property, Marvel, right? And Kevin Feige is not a fan of, and I may be saying his name wrong, but Bob Chapek or whatever, and he's also not a fan of Kathleen Kennedy. He's like, they actually, the Star Wars folks tried to get him to take Star Wars and Marvel. He's like, my plate's a little full. I can't do that, but
Well, he was sought after for a new trilogy, but yeah, I think he told him no.
Yeah,
too many hands in the kitchen, too many hands in the pot.
Yeah, but I would love to see him do it instead. I think
he would do very well at it. But at this point, what's left to tell? I mean, as far as furthering, I mean, there's all kind of gaps to fill. There's tons of gaps to fill. Don't get me wrong. But what is left to tell beyond the Rise of Skywalker?
There's a lot to tell if you're going to go outside of Skywalker. If you're going to stay within the Skywalker realm, you're done.
I mean, because really, what are they going to do with this Han and Chewie series they've announced? I mean, Harrison Ford's coming back, but I mean, the guy's 70-something years old. What is he going to do?
Digital imprint and a voiceover. It's
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much left to really tell of Skywalker. But now, if you want to go back to, and their big thing right now, they're pushing in all the books and stuff. And again, Rob can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's all the High Republic stuff right now, which I've been buying the comics of. But they're trying to set that up to be, here's the new thing we're going to tell. Here's where the new trilogies are coming from. The problem with that is some of that stuff's pretty interesting. Like the comics, not bad. But the character that they want to focus on for the books and for what they do in a movie trilogy is basically a character created for an actress that they already had handpicked to go over there and has already burnt some bridges with some other properties. And I'm not sure how well this is going to go.
Okay. It took me a second, but I know what you're talking about now. Okay.
Well, we're not talking about the whole Brie, are we?
Yeah, I was trying to be nice and not say that, but I mean, fuck
that bitch.
Avar Chris or whatever her name is, that's the main character in the High Republic stuff, is supposed to look like her and be based kind of on her way, and it's honestly it's a Kathleen Kennedy push, and they want it to be that this person is the most powerful Jedi ever, and this is the person who's. I'm like, no, we've already established that the Skywalkers were this. You can have a great story here, but drop this whole woke thing of making this the most important person out here, and we don't need that. That's I see if they do movies, that's where I figure that they're going to go to, and I'm like, why?
You're probably right, and that's sad to say, but you're probably right.
You almost have to have some tie to a legacy character though in the movies though, because I mean, let's be honest. I really enjoy Rogue One, but had Vader not showed up, you know what I'm saying? You know, for the few minutes here and yonder that he showed up, I mean, would we have, and I'm not tied into the Death Star, so forth and so on, but we really have been as invested. Just, I mean, it's just because other than that, it's just okay. There was a shit ton of troops and troopers and soldiers that went on various missions that were detrimental to the Republic, the rebels, and the Empire. But do we really care?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where we are. But since you brought it up in that way, that let's talk about our second topic for the night, because we are getting a little closer on time. But the other thing we wanted to talk about was, because we were having a little bit of a debate on how would you really pick who this is, but who was the true chosen one of the Skywalkers, right? Who is the true chosen one of all those trilogies? Who's the one who brought the balance back to the Force? And since Rob is the expert, I'm gonna shoot it to him first to hear his opinion before I give mine, because I might have to steal his.
Well, I kind of wanted to bring this up. I'm glad you kind of throwed it to me, I guess, first. One thing I did want to look up right before we started, we've heard about the Chosen One over and over and over again, but it's been very recently that they actually came right out and gave us the Chosen One prophecy, and it's super short. It was in one of the novels, Master and Apprentice, which takes place years before The Phantom Menace, Episode 1. And here's the whole prophecy. A chosen one shall come, born of no father, and through him will ultimate balance and the Force be restored. Qui-Gon Jinn was a huge fan of prophecies. So when he showed up on Tatooine and there's this little kid that can use the Force and has no daddy, Qui-Gon shot his load quick. He's like, oh my God, this is the true person to bring balance. And in a lot of ways, he did. So I think that Anakin was the one that brought balance to the Force initially, because he killed the Emperor. And when he killed the Emperor, it kind of destroyed the Sith. If you read either the legends or even the new canon, there's still dark side users out there. The dark side will never be gone, just like the light side will never be gone. And even George Lucas said that the balance to the Force was never about eradicating the dark side. It was bringing balance between the two, neither side being, controlling. And so I kind of have to think that when Luke redeemed Vader and Vader took the Emperor out, and then of course he succumbed to his own injuries, I kind of think that was the balance to the Force. I've read a couple of things that said that Rey rebalanced the Force when she killed the reborn Emperor. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not true. Doesn't make her the chosen one. It just means that she kind of finished some more of the work that Vader had already done. But I kind of have to be under the Anakin as the chosen one for myself.
That's pretty interesting. And let me throw this out there, and I'm not disagreeing with you in any way, because I think you either have to say Anakin or Luke. But you say the prophecy says of no father, or born of no father. Well, you can kind of read in that a little bit too, because Luke's father was never there. So is it just because the fact that he was an orphan from his mother and his father, or not even a full orphan, but he didn't know his father was?
Technically, his father was dead. Because Anakin Skywalker was dead and Vader was living by the time he was born. So you kind of had that variation there.
And you could read into it again with Rey too, right? Because they never fully said, and maybe I missed if they did, they never fully said that I thought that one of the Emperor's clones was her father, or was she another clone as well, just a female clone?
No, it's you get it in the book from what I understand. Her father was a failed Palpatine clone that had 0 Force abilities.
Okay, so was that truly her father, or was she another? Because I thought she was another clone.
No,
if that was
she
the case,
was actually born of a
same.
Palpatine clone that had 0 Force abilities, and who the wife was, I don't think it ever touched on that at all. But he actually was one that he didn't deteriorate, but because he didn't have the Force energy to, because they said multiple times that a lot of why Palpatine looked like he did because his Force energy was so evil and strong it was deteriorating his body. And since the clone didn't have those energies, I guess he didn't deteriorate like what the other clones did.
Because I was thinking, if she was a clone, then that would have been another saying, okay, well, she was not born of a father either. So that you can read into it differently. But, for me, it's either got to be Anakin or Luke. I think Luke brought Anakin back, and I kind of have to end up siding with Big Rob on it. I think eventually it's Anakin, because he is the one who sired Luke, and, Luke brought him back. He's the one who killed the Emperor. He's the one who set things back into place. But, yeah, I kind of have to fall under him, but I'm a huge Luke fan over Anakin. I would take Luke over Vader or Anakin either day if I had to pick my top character. But at the same time, I think Anakin probably was. But what was your opinion, Hassel?
Well, we're going to go 3 for 3 on this right here. As detrimental as Luke is to bringing Anakin back to the light side of the Force, it's Anakin all day, and he done it twice. Because he's born of no father. That's even if you take that out of the equation. He brought the first balance to the Force because the Jedi during the sequel of the prequels and the New Republic, they had took over things completely because the Force was the Sith was shut out. So when the Sith re-arose, like I was talking about, that's what brought balance to the Force, where it was never about eradicating the Sith or evil. You've got to have light, you've got to have dark. So when he turned and him and Palpatine was there, and the Jedi go from here to where they're minority, then when you got the rule of 2 versus a handful of Jedi, there's balance. But then over time, of course, it goes back the other way. The skills tilt. Luke, being who Luke is, he never gives up on his father. He never gives up on the Force. He gets his father to turn back to the light side, eradicating the Emperor. Once again, bringing great balance to the Force, because while there's still great evil out there to battle, the handful of Jedi, which is basically just Luke at this point, and what few Force users are left there, there's other Sith users out there, dark users. So there's a balance there once again, keeping it to a minority. So to me, it's got to be Anakin all the way.
Yeah, and since we talked so much about how Anakin was that chosen one, I've thrown out this theory a bunch of times. I've been laughed at a bunch of times, but my theory is that the whole intergalactic civil war was Obi-Wan's fault. Because in Phantom Menace, he takes that 1 second to spin his lightsaber around and be all bougie instead of running forward and getting caught by that shield and not being there to help Qui-Gon. So let me ask you this question, because we were talking about this the other day, and I think it's very intriguing. But what changes? What happens if Qui-Gon survives? If Obi-Wan doesn't do his little lightsaber spin, and he gets there in time and helps him, and he survives, and he's the one who trains Anakin, how does that change things?
If a Qui-Gon never dies, Palpatine will be exposed by Episode 2. Whether he gets killed or not, I'm not going to say, but I do think that Qui-Gon and Anakin go on to become great Jedi. Because Qui-Gon was one that escaped the line between the two. He would never turn Sith, but at the same time, he did not believe in the path that the Jedi were taking at this point. Because they had become a little too self-righteous by the prequels. Because there's various parts where we love the good guy. But even us, as super fans, when you're watching parts of the prequels, you look at, Mace Windu, and even Yoda's like, wow, you're a self-righteous prick. And something you wouldn't have thought, you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't think you would say this, but I mean, they were just, especially Mace Windu, he was a dick at certain points, especially when it came into Anakin. And I don't think Qui-Gon would have put up with that shit. He would have shut that shit down like Negan. And which he had been a father figure to Anakin, more importantly. That father figure, the nurturing, even if it was hard nurturing at times, which is what he did not get from, Obi-Wan. And there you got more of a brother-sibling rivalry where he's just his master is only a few years older than he is. And he had to know all along, and the arrogance and hubris or whatever, that, okay, I'm supposed to be the chosen one. I'm going to be a badder motherfucker than you at some point. And I'm getting there slowly. To where I don't think he'd ever been allowed that arrogance with Qui-Gon. I apologize. I think Qui-Gon would have tempered that. And it would be much different. You'd have never got the Galactic Empire. It's very interesting to think of how things would have turned out. Would balance have returned sooner with, what I'm saying, with what path of them two took together? Would Obi-Wan have turned to the dark side out of jealousy?
That's exactly what I was fixing to ask. Would we have gotten dark side Obi-Wan?
And that's a scary thought, because, I mean, he was a formidable Force user. And we all know he sandbagged in Episode 4 against Vader. Even at his age, he was sandbagging, because, I mean, clearly you see the battle he got with Maul during, the Clone Trooper or Clone Wars episodes. So he still had it in him. So evil Obi-Wan, that could have been something right there.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I'm very much of the mind that, Obi-Wan, whether he admitted it or not, or knew it or not, he was not prepared to be training someone else yet. It was too early for that. And them being closer in age, he becomes a brother figure, and you still fight with your brothers all the time, and you don't always listen to them. Qui-Gon was more of a father. He would have taught Anakin better. I think you would have had to do something differently at that point, as far as who's gonna go, who's gonna turn, who's gonna become evil, whether it's Obi-Wan or whatever. Is something that would have been different than how it went, right? And I don't know, it'd been interesting to see. I'd like to see a what if of that, just to see how they think.
Obi-Wan is very immature in Episode 1, and he has to take over as being a master at this point. And even in Episode 2, he has a super blind allegiance to the Jedi Council, to where he questions nothing. Even into Episode 3, he questions nothing. At times he should have. I'm not saying that the path that Anakin took. Palpatine manipulated him, but had Qui-Gon been there, I think that Obi-Wan might have eventually fell. I do think that, because out of jealousy, and because I mean he was my daddy first.
Well, and so Rob, tell me how you feel about this, but I think too that if you watch the Clone Wars, you see how not only does that brother relationship between those two, where it's not really Obi-Wan's not really in charge of him, but Anakin manipulates Obi-Wan into a lot of stuff too, like how your siblings will goad you into something. He's like, but what if we do this, Master? He's like, well, the council doesn't want us to do that, but sure, why not? Yeah, he talks him into a lot of stuff.
The voice actor for Obi-Wan got to practice a lot of okay, we'll do it that way, Anakin, during those few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. He absolutely lets Anakin talk him into a lot of shit that they shouldn't have done. Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting what if. I just wanted to throw that out there while we were talking it, but seeing as the time we're getting to, it's about time to move into our nerd out segment of the show, which thankfully Rob's going to join us for as well. But for those of you who haven't been here before, this is where we get to ask random questions about the topics of the day. Just something that we have to come up with that our castmates here don't know what we're going to ask, but they have to give us an answer to it, and we have to answer it as well. And after we ask these, feel free, if you have an answer to the question, feel free to provide them in the comments below, or if you just want to expand on or talk about something we might have said and want to expand on it some more, feel free to throw that in the comments as well. But since Big Rob is our special guest this week, I'm going to throw it to him first if he's prepared and let him do his first nerd out question.
I do have a question, and honestly, when you told me I was going to do one of these, the question kind of came to me like almost immediately, and I guess more because I had an answer for it almost immediately. Because so my question is this: so
I see you figured out how this worked. We ask questions we already have an answer to usually.
Whoever gets the first question is like, yes.
So what character or group or event that is in Star Wars, and I don't care, movies, TV shows, video games, novels, comics, canon, legends, whatever, something or somebody that's a minor character or a minor event that you would like to see them turn into either a Disney Plus show or a movie to expound on that character or like say, or group or an event.
Wow, that's actually a damn good one.
That is, but let me ask a question to clarify, just so I understand. So you
yes,
say
sir.
Minor character, does that mean, define minor character for me? Because I guess that's probably what's throwing me off for it.
You're talking not core characters, well, correct?
Right, I'm saying, so not an Obi-Wan or a Boba Fett, even though I know they're getting their own shows, but not somebody that, major league, that, somebody less
not
than
an easy answer
10
like
minutes.
a Luke Skywalker series.
Or a Yoda or something, right?
Don't bullshit me on no easy stuff. This ain't grade school.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, because my first response is I want to see Yoda's backstory, but I consider him a major character, so that's why I was asking.
Right? Yeah, I want something that I'm looking for an answer for somebody that nobody else would think. Everybody wants to see Yoda's backstory. What's the character or event that's resonated with you as the fan that you want to know more about?
Ooh, I know this one all day long.
Oh, you got to go first then, because I got to think.
Star Killer from Force Unleashed.
Nice.
I would watch that. I would play a third game right now today. I would love to see that upon the screen as a series, from his young days. You ain't got to spend a great deal of time on it. But from his young days up until whether it's his demise or did he escape and behind the scenes help the rebels, in a less formidable role than what Luke and them done. But that character really captivated me. I found him extremely interesting. I love the actor that plays him.
Yeah,
and it was a great game, or great 2 games, and what if type expandable scenes they gave us were really cool.
Yeah, if they made a third Star Killer game, I would go buy a Series X Xbox so I could play it. That's how much I agree with you on that.
The monster, it's yours.
This is a hard one, because there's a lot of characters I like, but I consider this one a minor character just because it wasn't quite as much screen time. And what I really want to know is how he did not fall to the dark side. But I want to see Mace Windu, motherfucker. I want to find out how he did not fall to the dark side, because he was so far gone to that point.
In your series, does he die when he goes out that window, or does he hide in the shadows for the years and fight behind the scenes?
I'm looking at prequel. I want to know how he became a master, almost second only to Yoda, because I can't see him being a Jedi versus a Sith, because he's just, his attitude was so self-righteous and so just out there for me. I'm like, how is he a humble Jedi?
But which wallet is his?
Do what?
Which wallet is his?
What's in his wallet? Yeah. So Big Rob, what you got?
I think that window thing would be great. And speaking to your point, he used dark side techniques, and that's one of the reasons his lightsaber blade was purple. So he dabbled in the dark side. So I think that would be an amazing TV show or whatever, however they decided to adapt it. I think you're right.
Well, he was one of those that actually craved the saber duels.
Yeah,
he was so skilled at it that he ate some of the Jedi Masters feared him.
Wasn't his saber style a derivative of the dark side saber style too? His was like the most aggressive out of all the saber
him
styles.
And Count Dooku both had that same deal there.
Yeah, well, Dooku's was a little different because he had a different style saber, but yeah, they both descended from dark side teachings. So yeah, I will think it'd be great. My answer comes from Legends, and it's Coran Horn. He started out as a cop. He was in the Corellian security forces, which Corellia is where Han Solo is from. And after he got framed for murder, he went on the run and ended up joining the rebellion and became a fucking ace pilot in Rogue Squadron, the greatest fighter pilot squadron ever. And then found out that he had Jedi fucking heritage and became a Jedi master. I mean, this dude fucking went all over the galaxy and did everything there was to do. To me, he is like one of the most interesting characters. And there is like several of the X-Wing books. There is a novel just on him, but I would love to see him be brought from the Legends into canon and get the TV show treatment. That's me.
That does sound interesting, actually, though. But Hassel, how about you? What's your question this week?
I will be honest, before I drop my question, I really thought Gary was going to hit us with Mara Jade, but hey, I was expecting that myself. But my question is pretty simple. We've ranked the trilogies. What are your top 3 out of all 9 movies? Or we'll say 10, including Rogue One. What are your top 3 in order Star Wars movies?
Yeah,
I think it's funny. You think Solo is so bad that you didn't even add it in, but that was a movie too.
It is not a Star Wars story. We don't give a shit about him running the damn Kessler Run.
Yeah, well, since Big Rob's the guest this week, we'll let him go first on that one too.
Oh man, so top 3, for anybody, top number 1's got to be Empire, and I think A New Hope is number 2, simply because to me it was almost as good as Empire, and also it was the one that started it for all of us. So I think it's my number 2. Number 3, I'm gonna say Revenge of the Sith. With honorable mention to Attack of the Clones, but Revenge of the Sith was pretty fucking amazing. And I know I probably just stole both of y'all's answers, but I apologize if I did. But I really love those 3 movies. I think those are my top 3.
Yeah, I would say you stole mine for the most part. I mean, the only thing I debated about would I do A New Hope or would I do Return, because I loved A New Hope and it started everything. And I think it was the better overall movie, but Return was that nostalgia, because that was the first one I got to see in the theater right at my age, and because we're all the same age, but that's the one that came out in our lifetime right in the theaters, and that we got to go see first. And that one just held a special place for me nostalgia-wise. And seeing Luke, bounce off, spoiler alert, but he bounces off the Jabba's barge and catches his lightsaber midair and actually becomes a Jedi, that one got me.
And there was a whole bunch of damn Muppets.
There's nothing wrong with Muppets.
That's what fucking ruins Jedi for me is fucking Ewoks. They're the Jar Jar of the original series.
Yeah, but at least they were cute.
Nah, little bastards were a toy selling ploy.
Yeah, but I can deal with them versus Jar Jar.
Over Jar Jar,
they at least took.
I can deal with over peace and love of the dick or whatever. I mean, it's terrible. I myself, as a true Lord of the Sith, I got Empire without question. Episode 3, right there, because it mirrors Empire so much to me. Filmmaking wise, they done just that movie is great. It's to begin with, you get your slow burn where you feel great about the Jedi, and it's kind of feel good, and then slowly you just start empathizing with Anakin so much in his fear of losing his wife and unborn children. And you watch him transition into Vader till he takes his first lumbering steps, very Frankensteinish as Vader. It's beautiful. It's probably one of the best ones Lucas done because, I mean, he didn't actually do, I don't think he directed Empire. So, yeah, it's probably the best one that he done himself to me, hands down. And then after that, I'm going to go A New Hope. As much as I love certain scenes of Jedi, because there's parts of Jedi is just, oh gosh, it's amazing. The Ewoks. I have no Ewoks in A New Hope. Even though, this moron Luke is staring down the barrel of his lightsaber for the first time, and Obi-Wan's just slowly telling him, it was your father's weapon. He wants you to have it just before I dismembered him and left him to burn in lava. By the way, he killed 35 kids with it, but it's yours now. I mean, other than that, it's a great movie. I love it.
But
Luke was a whiny little bitch at the beginning of that movie, too.
Yeah.
Oh, God. My friends are shooting kid womp rats, and I don't get to go off to the academy.
But you know what A New Hope doesn't have that Return does besides Ewoks? They don't have Admiral Akbar to tell them it's a trap.
True. Or Slave Leia. Slave Leia almost wins hands down, I'm going to be honest. Even though she did get a cigarette voice later.
That is Hut Slayer Leia. Not Slave Leia. Hut Slayer Leia.
Oh, yeah, we changed that too. I know we lost Slave 1. I didn't know if we had lost that too.
She's been Hut Slayer Leia for years, though. That's because that was a fucking badass part.
Yeah. Well, Big Rob actually kind of stole part of my question, one of my questions, but I did as always, I had a backup option. So this one's kind of a weird one, but I'm just curious, if you could pick any other character from any other universe outside of Star Wars to actually cross over into Star Wars in some capacity, who would you pick? Or group of characters. It doesn't have to be just one.
That's interesting, actually.
For clarification, if they go into Star Wars, do we get to pick their attributes? In other words, do we get to make them Force users, or are they just going over with whatever attributes they bring with them?
If you want to do it either way, I'll leave that one up to you, sir. You're the guest, so you get to pick.
Sorry. Oh, I don't know. Hassel, you got an answer for that one?
I do. I feel like if they come over, they just come with what they have, what they bring to the table, so to speak. I think the most interesting and best fit would probably Tony Stark. Just because technology-wise, he would fit in well with their technology, and there's no telling what he could probably do with their tech. And I would assume he would show up at least with one of his armor suits. So, which would make him a formidable, trooper in the Grand Republic. So, I gotta go Tony Stark.
Interesting pick. I would not have thought that one. Big Rob, you need another minute, or you got one?
What immediately comes to mind is Darth John Wick, but maybe not.
With 2 lightsaber pencils.
They killed his Tauntaun.
Tell Palpatine's force choked his dog to death.
Oh, it's Tauntaun. He got maybe his Ewok. Maybe he had an Ewok and he choked him out.
Ooh. Now, if his cancer-ridden wife left him an Ewok, just imagine. Ooh, we're going real dark side on this episode, folks, and we apologize in advance.
No, we don't.
Apologize.
Yeah.
Man, no. Tony Stark was such a really good answer. For real honest and true, I can't think of anything any better than that. But for me, it's got to be from a book series that I read, Jim Butcher's Dresden Files. Harry Dresden is a modern day wizard, and I just think he would be funny as shit over there. He would be fun as hell to drop in the middle of Coruscant.
Yeah, and actually, I've read a couple of those books, but I really enjoyed that TV show about that. But yeah, that would be an interesting one because, let's be honest, how much different is a Jedi from a wizard at this point, right?
I won't be honest. I just had a really great one come to mind. I'm gonna let Monster answer before I say it, just in case it might be his answer.
Well, my answer is an easy fit. I think I kind of want to see, why not have Green Lantern or Green Lantern Corps in there? Why did they allow an intergalactic civil war to happen? Why weren't they? Maybe there's only one left, like when Kyle was the only one. And
that would make sense. Yeah, that would be a very great story.
It would be an easy fit, right? I mean, it's a spacefaring police force, just like the Jedi were. So where were they at, or were they around? Just be an interesting concept to see.
Picture this.
Yeah.
A blue TARDIS shows up and the Doctor appears.
I thought about doing that one and I let it go. I chose Green Lantern over that. That was my second choice.
So, well, that's why I waited for you to answer, because I was just like, holy shit, what if the Doctor just showed up? That's David Tennant Doctor. I won't be honest, it's David Tennant Doctor. I mean, that's just...
It's got to be.
Yeah. Because the Emperor fucks up Matt Smith. It's just dumb.
But to see a lightsaber up against a sonic screwdriver,
it'd be neat. I feel like he could do well getting into the various places they need to get.
That would be interesting. But good questions this weekend. And again, if anybody has any answers or just wants to expand upon any of the answers we gave, comment section down below is always open. Feel free to drop anything in there. But
hit us on Twitter. We answer you back either or, wherever you want to go.
Yeah. And I think that brings the episode to a close. But before we start to close, I wanted to thank again Big Rob for showing up and joining us in the conversation this week. Thanks for sticking around for the entire thing. I know it's quite a time commitment we put on you, but we appreciate you joining and bringing your expertise to the show.
Absolutely, because we definitely needed you to kind of keep us on track and to keep us in the realm of real knowledge, because we lack a lot of the depth that you have, and we appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm glad to be here. Really enjoyed it.
And with that, before we sign off, how about Hassel? How about you let them know where they can find us at on social media?
You can find us on the old Twitter there. We are at Nerdy MR Show. We're fairly active on there. Hit me up. We'll hit you back pretty quick. And like I said, if you don't feel comfortable commenting on comments here, hit us on there.
Remember, if you enjoyed this video or any of our other content, please give us a like, subscribe, comment, or share. It always helps us out. Join us here next time where we're going to give out our 2021 Excelsior Awards. But until then, live nerdy and try to lay low during the intergalactic civil wars.